Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems and welcome to another MX vs. ATV Reflex track review where today I'm going to be riding that Takashi 450 and I'll do 6 laps on a track called Sugar Camp MX by Hyperborea 681. And he said that he'd like to thank Dark Slides 19 for the bump models and a bunch of other stuff, C4 Detonator for the ruts and elevation template, and Red Rider for beta testing. So just trying to fit everybody in that they are using on these tracks. And this track is pretty fun. And I'll explain some of the cool aspects I think of it. It definitely feels like a national track, I guess, would be the best way to describe it. Like, not just like nationals, but like it could be a real motocross track on some level. It's a little short for what you'd expect to see out of like an AMA national, but it's very, very fun. And I could definitely see some like organized MX vs. ATV reflex races being run on it because the track itself is pretty straightforward. There's nothing super hard about it, especially if you're on a 450. And it's just like a fun little flowy, somewhat realistic motocross track with big jumps, which everybody that plays reflex always likes the big jumps. And I don't know if I've ever played a track before by Hyperborea 681. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. Pretty sure I've definitely never reviewed one though because I don't remember the name, which is why I say I don't think I've played one by him before. But judging by the reviews on this track that I've seen in the comments on Reflex Central already, it is a very well received track. A lot of people saying it's one of their favorite tracks in this game. I'd say it's pretty close to on par with some of the better tracks I've ridden, but obviously some of the, real famous ones like the Rubicon and stuff I think would still take the cake on just overall quality that was put into it, and of course the Jamie T compound, which everybody loves. But I would put it up there in terms of tracks that have good flow and are built really well, and the environment looks pretty good as well. It's just a nice, well put together track in my opinion. So this is going to be the end of like the first lap, but I don't think it counts your first lap. I'll go over the line right here. And let's see. Oh, it does. So the first time I played this, it didn't even count my first lap. It just said that I was still on lap 1 after that, which I'm not too sure how that works in Reflex. In MX Simulator, if you miss too many gates, your lap isn't counted, but I was pretty sure that in Reflex, you can't miss too many like gates or whatever it is on the track before it just completely resets you behind where you went off the track at. So, don't know what I did wrong, but guess I just screwed something up and only did a lap without it counting. These jumps are freaking massive. Some of the really big jumps on this track just pitch you way up, and they're really fun for whipping. Like, look at that. It's just like a small step up, and you can still get completely turned on it. And then this is like kind of an interesting jump. It's like an uphill triple, but then it lands in a whoop section. Turn here, and then it's a little hip table that I'm OJing. Oh boy. Landing for that is very, very steep. So if you don't get the landing perfect, it's pretty much game over, and you're either going to come up way short and come dropping out of the sky onto a smaller plateau, or OJ it like I just did there and come falling out of the sky way below where the plateau was and onto the ground. Look at how big these jumps are. Like, even in this little sand section, a big uphill step up, and then like a big double/triple thing that I almost tripled, and then backflipped off that tire. Well, that tree is buried in the ground over there. Interesting. The one downfall I see from this track so far, but I mean, it's not really as much of a downfall as it's probably just like a style of building, is that these ruts aren't particularly huge, so they don't hold you as well as some other ruts that I've played on varying different tracks before. Like I said, that's not really like a problem. That's probably just the way he meant to build it, so that you couldn't just WFO all over the track, which I'm a terrible player at this game, so there's probably people that can WF all over the track anyway. It doesn't matter. So 2 laps. See, okay, so now that lap wasn't counted, but I definitely just went over the line. So I don't know what the deal necessarily with that is. Interesting. All right. By the way, I am running just a regular Geico in-game skin for the Suzuki this time around. But I'm still running the same Troy Lee Designs gear that I ran in the last track review that I did, which was on the Atlanta Supercross. And I apologize for the loud airplane in the background and my fiance sneezing. God bless you, honey. But I think that I can just easily, yeah, I'll just pop the link for this said here gear into the description of this video from the other description of the video. Or, you know, if you want to first watch that other video, the Atlanta Supercross track review, you can also go check that out. We have all these videos on a Reflex track review playlist. Jeremy, when he used to do Reflex track reviews, did like the first 11 or 12 of them, but since then I've done about 8 or 9 Reflex track reviews for the channel. And the Reflex community is still so like big, and there's still so much awesome content being created that I feel like it's an area that we need to cover on this channel if we're gonna keep going with the moto stuff the way that we have been. And I mean, I like the moto stuff, so I don't mind playing cool little custom tracks. I just made an absolute mess of that roller section. I'm trying to take some different lines of, feel some different sections out so you guys can see. I'm starting to get the sense that hip jumps are this guy's favorite style though. Alright, so for some reason the second lap didn't count. So now I'm on the third lap, but it was a 4-minute 9-second lap time, which again, not too sure what the deal with that is. I'm assuming it's just that I'm going off the track somewhere or missing some sort of section that I need to be taking, or I don't really know what. It doesn't seem like I'm doing anything wrong. But probably am, knowing my skill set in this game. Oh yeah. So I suppose I could take the last half of this video, since I'm about halfway done with this particular race, even though I'm going to have 4 or like an extra lap to do right now. To talk a little bit about the fact that the motocross donations at Glen Helen in 2017 has been canceled, for those of you that may not be paying attention to the news at all in the moto realm. The Ustream cited that they chose to pull the event from underneath Feld Camp at Glen Helen, citing low attendance as the issue, and I'm honestly of the opinion that I don't blame him for assuming that. I think his sense of reality is a little bit off, because I think USA fans, for some reason, don't care about GPs at all, but when it comes to watching their own guys take on GP guys, they would care a hell of a lot more. So the motocross donations would definitely be a success at Glen Helen if they chose to hold it there, because people from all over the USA would come out. I mean, it's in Southern California, so it's, you know, a pretty good place to visit as like a spectator, because then you can go to like Disneyland and see Hollywood and downtown LA and all that stuff, and you're only like an hour from the track. So I don't understand his reasoning so much for that, but I can understand just looking at how the USGPs have gone at Glen Helen, him thinking that the spectator turnout wasn't going to be good enough. And that's just a damn shame. I'm really very, very disappointed with the California motocross scene, and I think it's more or less a problem with the California motocross scene that makes up the general age vicinity of 12, 13-year-olds till about 20, 28, 29-year-olds probably. So a group that I would probably categorize as millennials in that area. But if you went to the USGPs at Glen Helen, you probably realized just how many old dudes there were walking around there. A bunch of guys in their 40s and 50s wearing straw hats. I'm not just saying that because I went with a bunch of old guys. There's legitimately a lot of older people walking around, and it's very clear to me that these are people that have been motocross fans for years, because a lot of them wear t-shirts that say, oh, you know, whatever, USGP Carlsbad, for example, in the 80s or something like that. And I think the problem that we're seeing is not so much to do with the heightened cost of a GP, because you could get tickets for that GP for $50, whereas if you take that into inflation, I was talking to my dad about how much ticket prices were when he went to the USGP at Carlsbad in the 80s, and he said it was $20 or $30 back then. So inflation-wise, the $50 pretty much matches today's status quo for the dollar. So it doesn't make too much sense why people would be uptight about spending that much money. I've seen more people complaining about the fact that the weather was going to be a hindrance. But if you live in Southern California, you damn sure better be prepared to deal with 90 to 100 degree weather during the summertime regardless. And I've been to races at Glen Helen, nationals at Glen Helen before, that have easily been in the mid 105, 106 range over the 100 mark. And I still enjoyed the heck out of going to the race. And I think the reason why I enjoyed it is because I actually like, as a rider, from a rider standpoint who rides dirt bikes and had ridden dirt bikes in the past significantly more, I don't care if it's GPs or AMA or anything like that. If you go watch some of, if not the best riders in the world ride, you're going to pick up on cool techniques to try the next time you go ride. So when I go riding at Glen Helen, probably this coming weekend if I get the chance to, or whenever I get to go again, and I get to ride a fairly similar track to what I saw the GP guys ride, I know what speed they were attacking the corners at, how they attacked the corners, what they were doing on certain jumps, how they hit things, and what gears they might have been in, and how fast they were approaching sections. And so, yeah, I'm not the best rider in the world, and I know I'm not going to be ever or anything like that, but at least I can know just how far off I am from the best riders in the world when I go ride a track like that. And I always felt that that was a very, very cool thing for me to see. So that's why whenever there's a national anywhere near me, at Lake Elsinore, at Glen Helen, at Paula, at anything like that, I'd take every step I can to go and see it, because I want to support the sport for one, but two, I want to see the damn best riders in the world. Like, I don't understand these people that live in California. They're spoiled rotten by having too many supercrosses every year, in my opinion. We don't need 3 Anaheims, and we definitely did not need 2 San Diegos this year, but that's for a different situation. I digress about that. But for crying out loud, we have the national coming to our backyard, and then we have the world championship coming to our backyard, and you can only get like 2,000-3,000 people to show up to the dang event. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense to me, the arguments that people in California make about it being too hot, or there's not enough things going on there. Or I've even seen people saying, well, the championship was wrapped up in MXGPs, so there's really no point in going to watch it. That's ridiculous. Just because the championship's wrapped up doesn't mean you're not going to come watch some really good racing. And those guys were going for it when Tomac was catching the leaders, and it was a good battle, and the fans were getting into it and stuff like that. Like, it was a bitchin' race to watch, and I'm sorry that you felt that way, but you missed some good action, folks. It's just mind-boggling to me. And now that, the reason that there isn't going to be a Motocross to Nations at Glen Helen in 2017 is that exact reason, because these people were chintzy and they didn't want to watch the GP riders for some reason, or they didn't want to sit in 95-degree weather, or, God forbid, pay $50 to go watch a really great motocross race come into your backyard. I just think it's kind of ridiculous. And now, because of the low fan turnouts at these events from people boycotting it for whatever reason, we don't get to have the Motocross to Nations come to the U.S. in 2017. And it's confirmed now that it won't, because it's going to be at Great Britain next year. They were going to have Matterley Basin in Great Britain host the 2018 Motocross to Nations. They moved it up, so Matterley Basin is now hosting the 2017 one. It'll be somewhere in Belgium in 2018, and Ustream has come out and said that they'll look into the possibility of hosting it in 2019 in the USA somewhere. It won't be at Glen Helen. Who knows where it will be? Everybody's going to probably say, oh, it should be a Redbud or Unadilla or whatever, but it doesn't really matter where you guys think it should be. It totally matters where Luongo, the owner of Ustream, wants to put his money. And I've heard that he'll even want to host it at Charlotte, where they had the MXGP at Charlotte Motor Speedway recently. So good job, folks in SoCal that like motocross. Good job costing us the bid at having a Motocross of Nations in 2017. Might seem a little bit mad, but you know what? I kind of am, because I'm a fan of the sport, and at least I went to support it, even if you guys didn't. But that's my spiel on no Motocross to Nations at Glen Helen in 2017. So hopefully I get to go see it in Europe here pretty soon, because I definitely want to go. But that'll wrap up this edition of Reflex Track Reviews, where I played Sugar Camp MX by Hyperborea 681. If you guys like this video, please go ahead and bung it a like. You can also comment with any of your questions or concerns. We'll be happy to answer them. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Motocross of Nations being canceled at Glen Helen this year as well, or next year for that matter. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Pretty close to 14,000. We're only about 150 away, and the growth continues, so I just can't thank you guys enough for the support, and we hope to see you guys in our future videos, but so long for now.